Okay, so let's talk about reflexive verbs. So reflexive verbs are when the subject is also the object. So somebody is doing something to themselves. All right. Now, conversely, we also have indirect object pronouns, and that chart looks like me, te, le, nos, os, les. And that is when I'm doing something for someone or someone is doing something for me. But when I am doing something to myself, or you are doing something to yourself, or he or she is doing something to him or herself, his or herself, then it's a reflexive pronoun, and that would be me, te, se, nos, os, and se. So again, when I'm thinking of a reflexive verb, I'm thinking to myself, am I doing something to myself or is somebody doing something to me? And it's easy to remember that because reflexive sounds like reflection. So am I seeing myself in the mirror when I look, or am I seeing someone else? That's kind of how I keep it in my head. So anyway, oh, all right, so somehow I just deleted that entire page. Okay, so again, is the subject acting on itself? Then it's a self-helping action, it's reflexive. If you're just looking at verbs in their infinitive form, like on a vocab list, then I can recognize reflexive because it ends in se. Now, some verbs can be reflexively used and also not reflexively used. It just kind of depends on what you're doing. But again, if you're doing something to yourself, it's definitely reflexive. And in this unit, the chores unit, most of the reflexive verbs are us talking about getting ready. So it is stuff I'm doing to myself. I bathe myself, I dress myself, I put my makeup on, I fix my hair. Okay, so reflexive verbs require the use of reflexive pronouns. And, oh, well, there's an example. I washed my hair. I just said that. Reflexive pronouns are me, te, se, nos, os, and se. I don't know why they're a little offline there. There's the chart. Beautiful lines. But anyway, reflexive pronouns are going to come before the conjugated verb, or if you're writing something in the infinitive, then they're going to be attached to the end. Or if I'm using a participle. So for example, let's see if I give an example. No. So an example would be me lavo la cara. So there is the reflexive pronoun before the conjugated verb there. Okay. Conversely, I could say attached to the end of the infinitive. So then I'm going to say quiero, like I want to wash my face, instead of I wash my face. Quiero lavarme la cara. So I have a conjugated verb here, which means that this one has to be in the infinitive, and then I'm going to attach the pronoun to the end. And then the last way I can do it is, hey, my mom says, ¿qué está haciendo? And I say, estoy lavándome la cara. And I'm sure that y'all remember the ando and yendo is the ing in English, right? So estoy lavándome la cara. And we'll talk a little bit later about how I knew to add an accent right there. All right? Moving on. So I know that conjugation only happens to verbs, but I do like to think of, I kind of think of everything that I put in a chart as a little bit of a verb situation because it gets handled the same way. And so I tell my kids when they're learning to conjugate reflexive verbs that you're kind of conjugating it twice, right? So I'm taking lavarse, and not only do I have to take care of the verb, but I also have to take care of the pronoun and conjugate that. Conjugate, let me put that in quotes. Conjugate the reflexive pronoun. Okay, let's see. When you conjugate a reflexive verb, you first remove the se from the end and you put it in front of the verb and conjugate it. So again, let's put lavarse. And again, that se is just a placeholder until I have the subject to conjugate it for. So let's say I'm going to conjugate for Anna and y Brandon. Okay? So Anna and Brandon are going to wash their hands, or are washing their hands. So I'm going to take that se from the lavar se, and I'm going to put it before the verb, and then lavar, and then las manos, right? I'm doing this in incredibly slow steps, so if you already have the answer, then great. So all I did was break this up. I put the se first, and then I put what was left, which was the regular infinitive, second. Now I need to conjugate it. So if Anna and Brandon are my subject, that's more than one person. So if I'm using a verb chart here, it's an AR verb chart, oas, a, amos, on ice, sorry. So it's more than one person, so I'm using the plural side of the chart right here. And does this include the word yo or nosotros? Nope. Does it include two? No. So I'm not talking to y'all, so the only one left is on. So I'm going to cross off the AR, and I'm going to write on. Will it let me write over it? So se lavan, and now I got to conjugate the se. So let's look at my reflexive pronoun chart, which is me, te, se, nos, os, and se. Trick here is if I'm using the bottom right of the chart over here, then I'm going to use the bottom right of the chart over here. It's always going to be in the same place for a reflexive verb because this person is doing something to themselves. So if it's nosotros, then it would be nosotros. If it's vosotros, it would be vosotros, and so on, right? So since I used the bottom right box, I already knew it was se. But again, it's plural, doesn't include the word yo or nosotros, doesn't include two, so it's se. So se, in this case, happened to stay as se. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, because I want to put even more stuff on the page, hopefully you can still see this. Let's say that the subject became yo. Okay? Now, I was going to take that original lavar, and I'm going to put it in the yo form. So it would be lavo. And I would change the se to top left, me. So yo me lavo las manos, or Ana y Brandon se lavan las manos. Okay? Next page. Talked about all the different steps there. So I'm conjugating the verb. And again, I said this a minute ago, but it's always going to be the person receiving the action. So whatever I'm using on the verb chart, it's going to be the same on the reflexive pronoun chart. If you do a reflexive type verb for someone else, it is no longer reflexive, and then I'm using the indirect object pronouns. So if I wash my hair, it's me lavo el pelo. Okay, but the second that I decide to wash my brother's hair, I'm still doing the washing, it's still the hair, but now my brother's involved, so it's le. Instead of me te se, then it's going to be me te le. I'm washing my brother's hair. Okay, that's an indirect object pronoun. All right, so this is just a regular thing for you to know anyway, but this is a good time to mention it. When you have a preposition, and there's a lot of prepositions, but these are kind of some really good popular ones that you're going to see the most often. When you have a preposition, it's always going to be followed by an infinitive. So like, voy a la tienda para comprar. I would never say voy a la tienda para compro because this is a preposition. So if there is a verb afterwards, then it's going to be in the infinitive form. So if you're using a verb in Spanish, you use the infinitive after a preposition. I could say voy a la tienda para bananas, okay, or plátanos, either one. Try it out. Me cepillo los dientes antes de. I brush my teeth before salir para la escuela. So I brush my teeth before I leave for school. And you don't have to worry about not knowing who is salir, leaving, because I'm the subject and I said I brush my teeth before. Obviously, I'm the one going to school. Okay? Next. Acostarme is to get in bed. That's the other one I was thinking of. All right, so let's practice here. Yo blank todos los días. Me ducho. So I took the me. Oh, look at that. I already had the pronoun there. You're welcome for the little cheat. That should have gone in front of the verb. Sorry, in front of the verb, not in front of everything. Right there. And then I would have had to conjugate duchar as well. So, yo me ducho todos los días. Mi familia blank a las 9. Now, before you start conjugating this one, don't forget, mi familia sounds like a lot of people, but how many families is it? Just one. So, this is a singular group right here. So, mi familia se acuesta. A lot of people want to put se acuestan, but it's definitely se acuesta because it's one family. If I said mis hermanos, then it would be se acuestan because hermanos is brothers. But when I say my family, it's just one thing. María se viste muy elegante para la cita. Vestirse is a stem changer, by the way, so that's I to I. Mis amigas y yo. So how many people is that? That's 2, and it includes the word yo. So that se is going to come before the verb and become a nos. And then this is going to be amos. So the answer would be nos pintamos las uñas para la boda. Fernando is one person. So se cepilla el pelo. Antes de, now look at that antes de, that is a preposition. And what is it followed by? An infinitive. Yo siempre blank a las 8 de la mañana. This is also a stem changer right there. Me despierto. Cada mes tú. Again, it's just the to form. That's going to go in front. And then I'm going to change that to a te. And that's going to be as. So, te cortas. María tiene que. Que is a preposition. So, this is going to stay in its infinitive. But I still, no matter what, if I'm leaving something in the infinitive, I still always have to conjugate the reflexive pronoun. So again, since it's not really a verb and it's not really conjugation, then it makes sense that the conjugation after a preposition, the not conjugation after a preposition, wouldn't apply to it because it's not really a conjugation. So lavarse, that se still needs to change to reflect who your subject is. So let's write a different sentence here. So now I've got tú tienes que, that's again a preposition. I've got the same verb lavarse. So it's definitely going to be lavar. And I'm going to leave se there for a minute, but that's just a placeholder. I always have to adjust that to be who I'm talking about. Okay? So I'm changing the se. And who's my subject? Tú. So what's the reflexive pronoun for that to form? Is te. So tú tienes que lavarte las manos. Okay? This one was correct. It's just an easier one to do over here because you can actually see it change. Over here, the se stayed the same because Maria was my subject. All right. Mi hermana blank el pelo con un secador. So my sister se seca el pelo con un secador. All right. So how would you prefer? How would you say? Do you prefer to bathe or shower? So don't forget when I have a question, I'm going to start with my question mark upside down, and then the question is prefieres. Now that's a conjugated verb, right? So bathe would be bañarse, but since I'm talking to the to person, it's going to be bañarte. o ducharte. And again, I'm doing that because I've got a conjugated verb, so it's going to be followed by an infinitive. And that O is or. It's kind of like and in the sense that it doesn't like restart my conjugation. It's whatever happened right before the or is going to happen right after. So if this stayed in the infinitive, then this stayed in the infinitive as well. So there's your answer. ¿Prefieres bañarte o ducharte? Maria dresses herself quickly. So think about that for a minute. Obviously, your subject is Maria. And the answer is bum, bum, bum. Maria se viste rápidamente. You could also put muy rápido or whatever, but Maria se viste is the verb going on there. I wash my hair each morning. Think about that one. Okay, so that one is going to be me lavo el pelo cada mañana. And then I go to bed early when I'm tired. Acostarse is the going to bed, and that one is a stem changer, O to UE. So me acuesto temprano cuando tengo sueño. When I'm tired. Cuando tengo sueño. I'm tired is that whole tener sueño, tener hambre is I'm hungry. Hopefully you remember those. I wouldn't say dormirme or me duermo or whatever. Dormirse, dormir means to sleep. Dormirse means to fall asleep. So that would kind of change the meaning of the sentence. So really go to bed is actually acostarse. So that's why I did that. All right, important things to remember. You have to conjugate the verb or leave it in its infinitive form and the reflexive pronoun. The reflexive pronoun 100% of the time gets changed to reflect its subject, okay? And the verb and the reflexive pronoun must match. The only time they wouldn't is if I had an infinitive and then the reflexive pronoun, right? If you use me, the ending should be O. If you use te, it should be as or es. Reflexive pronouns should... Something else I've noticed is that a lot of rookies like y'all try to use reflexive pronouns as regular pronouns. I can't say nos vamos a la playa cada día, because nos vamos a la playa is more like me giving a command to my group like, hey, let's go already, all right? And so it doesn't work that way. I could say nosotros vamos a la playa cada semana or whatever, and I couldn't say me estudio para la clase de español. No, that means I study myself. Am I studying myself? No, I don't. I'm studying Spanish. It would be yo estudio or me visto para la escuela. I get dressed for myself. I dress myself for school. So reflexive pronouns should not be used outside of reflexive verbs and situations. And then when you use reflexive verbs, you don't use possessive adjectives to describe the items you're working on. So I do not say me lavo mi pelo. I say me lavo el pelo. Now, I do hear natives use, and it is accepted, to say yo lavo mi pelo or me lavo el pelo. And this is what I prefer that you use, is me lavo el pelo. But it is correct to say yo lavo mi pelo. You cannot say me lavo mi pelo. That is wrong. Okay, and then so sometimes verbs change their meaning. I brought this up a little bit earlier if I have them in reflexive form. So dormir is to sleep, but dormirse is to fall asleep. Ir is to go away. Ir is to go, and irse is to go away. Llevar is to carry, and llevarse is to take away. Poner is to put, and ponerse is to put on. I love this one because there's poner la mesa, right, which is to set the table, but y'all like to accidentally say ponerse la mesa, which is like, I can imagine somebody like wearing a table as a backpack, which is just silliness. All right, and I believe that is the beginning. Yep, so that's it.